Will Sarada go blind from using her Mangekyō Sharingan? Hey there, young grasshopper, Renato here. We're back, right, after being away for a while. And with this bombshell of news we just got about Sakura, about Sarada finally showing off her Mangekyō Sharingan abilities, I want to answer the question of whether Sarada will go blind because she awakened the Mangekyō Sharingan and will definitely be using it left and right, you know. And for those who aren't new and already know the story of Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, you know that any Uchiha who overuses their Mangekyō Sharingan powers, and overuse isn't even that much, as we saw with Sasuke, right? He used it a few times and was already starting to go blind. If you use it, you'll go blind, no ifs, ands, or buts. So, considering that Sarada doesn't have a little brother, like Sasuke had Itachi, and Madara had his younger brother, her fate, logically, is to go blind. Or is it? There are some theories out there on the internet about how Sarada could get the eternal Mangekyo, but, however, nevertheless, I say no. It's impossible for her to get the eternal Mangekyo the way things are right now, you know, in the anime. But that's a topic for another video, where I'll explain why Sarada can't get the eternal Mangekyo. If you think she can, leave your theory in the comments. I've seen a bunch already, but who knows, maybe yours is new and convinces me. But let's go. Assuming that Sarada can't get the Mangekyō Sharingan, how could she keep using her Mangekyō Sharingan and still not go blind? Well, guys, there are actually a few ways that could happen. The first and simplest is if she's a genius like Itachi, which is unlikely, but possible, right? And she manages to use her Mangekyo, let's say, wisely, right? Using it in moderation. So she could avoid, well, not go blind for a long time, you know? Sasuke got a lot older and still had his vision just fine, using his Mangekyo whenever he wanted. And he never almost went blind like Sasuke did, right? But that's one of the theories, one of the possibilities that wouldn't let her keep her vision perfectly fine for the rest of her life, right? Most likely, Itachi would have gone blind after some more time. He would have gotten old and been okay, right? But we also had others who had their Mangekyo, didn't have the eternal Mangekyo, but also didn't go blind, like Fugaku, for example. Fugaku, Itachi, and Sasuke's father. Everyone knows he had the Mangekyo, and he was already kind of older, right? Not super old, but he was an adult, probably between 30 and 40 years old, at least. And he was fine. So yes, it's possible that by using it moderately, and Fugaku, look, he lived during wartime, my friend. He wasn't living in peaceful times where he didn't have to fight. No, the guy was fighting all the time. So yes, it's possible, right, to maintain your vision by using your abilities in moderation and probably also having some special talent. But that's not the only way, and we can also say that it's one of the least reliable ways, right, because it doesn't guarantee you won't go blind. The other way that was actually shown in the anime, where it's possible to use your Mangekyo, now, to really use it left and right. My friend, all the time, constantly using the Mangekyō Sharingan and not going blind, even without having the eternal Mangekyo, was how Obito Uchiha used his Mangekyō Sharingan. We know that Obito shared his Mangekyo with Kakashi, right? In Kakashi's case, we didn't see him going blind because he barely used his Mangekyo, right? If he had used it just a little more, he would have been done for. He wouldn't even have had time to go blind. But Obito used his Mangekyō Sharingan practically 100% of the time. The guy never stopped. And even without having the eternal Mangekyo, he never showed the slightest sign of any discomfort from using his Mangekyō Sharingan. And why did that happen? Clearly, it was because of the Hashirama cells that were implanted in his body. Hashirama cells, which are the biggest plot convenience in Naruto, right? So, Hashirama cells pretty much solve everything in the anime. And this was one of the things they solved. Obito basically got an eternal Mangekyo just by having those Hashirama cells implanted. But alright, Renato, so does that mean they're going to implant Hashirama cells in Sarada? That's one option. I think that would be a huge plot convenience. No, I don't think it would be interesting, but it's an option. The other option, which I think is more plausible and probably the one they'll use, is Sarada using her Byakubu Jutsu, which is the jutsu from the 5th Hokage, right? Remember that this jutsu is very similar to Hashirama's cellular regeneration. So, taking into consideration that Obito was only able to use his Mangekyo because of Hashirama's cellular regeneration, which, you know, regenerated his cells faster than they were destroyed by the Mangekyo, then we can say, yes, that if Sarada uses her Mangekyo, By using the Byakugan, she'll probably be able to avoid that blindness. Of course, it's also been said in the anime that using the Byakugan decreases your lifespan, but it will work in the same way as the Mangekyo used by Fugaku, for example. You just have to use it carefully, use it properly and in moderation, and it'll be fine. After all, Tsunade is still alive after all these years, right? Because if she was about the same age as Jiraiya, and Jiraiya was already kind of a grandpa, then Tsunade has been living for quite a long time, right? Even while using the Byakugan, I believe that's how they're going to prevent Sarada from going blind. But tell me, do you think it'll be a different way, that somehow Sarada will awaken the eternal Mangekyo? I don't believe in that theory, and I'll make a video here showing why. That's it, guys. See you in the next video. Thanks.